6 companies, all dissolved, all filed at the same time, all linked to the same woman. On the surface, the news coming out of Companies House looked like a routine corporate tidying up. 6 businesses connected to Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, quietly struck from the register. No creditors owed, no drama, no statement. But here's the thing, the timing of these closures isn't incidental. They came in the immediate wake of the most damaging document release in the history of the British royal family, the Jeffrey Epstein files. And the emails inside those files don't just show a connection between Ferguson and a convicted sex offender. They show a woman who was leaning on him financially, socially, and professionally long after the world knew exactly who he was. The business collapse is the headline. The real story is everything that led to it. We're going to go through what those 6 companies actually were, what the Epstein emails really say, why the detail about her daughters is the most disturbing part of all this. And later in this video, we'll get into the memoir rumours and the plan that sources close to Ferguson say she's now quietly hatching to claw back some kind of control. Whether that plan can survive contact with reality is a different question entirely. To understand what's happening right now, you have to go back further than the Epstein files. Because Sarah Ferguson's relationship with financial chaos isn't new, it's arguably the defining feature of her adult life. After her divorce from Prince Andrew in 1996, Ferguson found herself in a position that was genuinely unusual for someone who had spent years at the centre of the monarchy. She had the title at the time, she had the connections, she had the public profile. What she didn't have was a reliable income, and she burned through money at a pace that alarmed even people who liked her. By 2010, reports were estimating her personal debts at somewhere around £5 million. Various business ventures, charity projects, and public appearances had come and gone, generating cash in bursts and then evaporating. The 6 companies we're looking at now, S Phoenix Events, Fergie's Farm, La Luna Investments, Solar Moon, Philanthropreneur, and Planted Partners Productions, were all part of that pattern. A collection of enterprises built around her name and brand, spanning everything from events and PR to retail and investment. Fergie's Farm was described as a retail business, the others are hazier. What they have in common is this: none of them appear to have generated the kind of income that would meaningfully change her financial position. And all 6 were filed for dissolution in the same window of days, immediately after the Epstein revelations landed. That's not a coincidence. That's a company director reading the room. When the US Justice Department began releasing its Epstein files, most people were watching for one name in particular, Andrews. But what they found, running alongside his story, was a parallel narrative that in some ways is even harder to explain. The emails released from Ferguson's correspondence with Epstein paint a picture that goes well beyond a casual acquaintance maintaining a friendship she shouldn't have. In an August 2009 email, Ferguson wrote to Epstein thanking him for his apparent role in helping her secure brand deals. "In just 1 week after your lunch," she wrote, "it seems the energy has lifted." She went on to say she had never been more touched by a friend's kindness. And then, in a line that's been quoted relentlessly since, she called him the brother I have always wished for. That email was sent in 2009. Epstein had been convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2008. Anyone writing to him in warm, grateful terms in 2009 knew what he had done. Then there's the May 2010 email. In that message, Ferguson told Epstein she desperately needed money and asked him to consider hiring her as his house assistant. His house assistant, a former member of the British royal family, writing in terms of financial desperation to a man who had just served time for sex offences involving a child. Both she and Andrew had publicly claimed to have cut off contact with Epstein after his conviction. Those emails suggest otherwise. The 2009 and 2010 emails are significant, but they're not what stopped the conversation in its tracks. What emerged in the next tranche of files was this. Ferguson had reportedly been in contact with Epstein while he was still in prison, reaching out for business advice during his incarceration, not after his release, during it, while he was serving his sentence for what he had done. Then, Within hours of Epstein's release from prison, her office reportedly contacted him. The request wasn't for a quiet catch-up or a chance to reconnect. It was a request for him to cover the cost of a flight upgrade so that Ferguson could bring Beatrice and Eugenie to see him. 5 days after Jeffrey Epstein walked out of jail, having served time for offences against a child, Sarah Ferguson apparently brought her daughters to visit him. Take a moment with that. Beatrice and Eugenie were teenagers at the time. Their mother, fully aware of what Epstein had been convicted of, was not only still in contact with him, she was reportedly asking him to pay for the privilege of her family visiting him. And according to reports citing the files, Epstein himself noted that Ferguson was among the first people to welcome him back, with her daughters in tow. People who have tried to give Ferguson the benefit of the doubt on the earlier emails have found this detail much harder to explain away. And then there's the email that even longtime royal commentators described as genuinely alarming. Among the correspondence released in the Epstein files were messages in which Ferguson apparently told Epstein about a single woman she knew, someone she described in terms that were both flattering and, given the context of who she was writing to, deeply troubling. The implication of those emails and what they suggest about what Ferguson understood of Epstein's interests has generated a level of scrutiny that goes well beyond the original financial angle of this story. Her representative declined to comment when press approached them about the emails. There has been no public statement from Ferguson herself, no interview, no clarification. The silence has been total. And when you sit with all of this together, the prison contact, the flight request, the daughter's visit, and those later emails, it becomes very difficult to frame this as someone who simply failed to cut ties with an old acquaintance. The emails suggest an active, ongoing, financially transactional relationship with a convicted sex offender, maintained over years and across multiple types of personal and professional requests. The question that follows naturally from that is, at what point did the palace understand the extent of this, and what did they do about it? February 19, 2026, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's 66th birthday. It's the date police arrived at Sandringham. Thames Valley Police confirmed that Andrew had been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The allegation at the heart of it, that he had shared confidential information with Epstein during his time as Britain's trade envoy, a role that gave him access to sensitive commercial and diplomatic intelligence. He was held for hours, then released under investigation. The investigation is ongoing. The birthday timing was noted by almost everyone covering the story. Whether it was deliberate or coincidental, it landed like a statement. When the news broke, one of the first questions asked was, where was Sarah Ferguson? The answer, as of that day, was, nobody knew. She hadn't been seen publicly since September 2025. She had not appeared at any of the expected engagements. There was no statement, no social media post, no confirmation of her location. Reports eventually emerged suggesting she had spent time at a luxury wellness clinic in Switzerland in January and was believed to still be abroad as the story exploded. Legal experts who spoke to media in the days following the arrest were pointed about one thing. If Ferguson returns to the UK, she could face questioning as a key witness in the investigation. The emails placing her at the centre of the Epstein relationship make her, at minimum, someone police would have significant interest in speaking to. While Andrew was sitting in a police station, Ferguson was reportedly at a spa. The arrest was the loudest moment in a collapse that had actually been building quietly for weeks. Sarah's Trust, the international charity Ferguson had founded and associated closely with her public rehabilitation, announced it would close for the foreseeable future in early February, days after the first major wave of Epstein email revelations. The Board of Trustees and Ferguson herself had agreed, the statement said, with regret. That was just the beginning. Multiple charities who had maintained ties with Ferguson severed them in the days that followed, including organisations that had worked with her for years. The charitable sphere, which had been one of the few areas where she had maintained some credibility after previous scandals, was gone. Then the business closures came. 6 companies all filed at Companies House within the same window. And alongside that, a former BBC royal correspondent put it bluntly, Her publishing deals and endorsements were over. The commercial infrastructure she had spent years building around her name, the entire machine of brand partnerships and media appearances that had funded her life since leaving the royal family, had effectively ceased to function. No creditors were owed anything on the companies, which tells you something in itself. These weren't businesses wound down in chaos. They were quietly, deliberately dissolved. A controlled demolition of the commercial empire attached to her name, before anyone could come looking. Sources close to Ferguson, quoted in various outlets, described her as someone who does not feel remorse and is burying her head in the sand. Whether that's accurate or whether it's a deliberate framing from people with their own agendas, it's the picture that has settled around her in the public mind. Here's where it gets interesting. Because Ferguson, according to sources speaking to royal commentators, isn't simply retreating. Rumours have been circulating for weeks, and these are rumours, it's worth being clear about that Ferguson has been considering a tell-all memoir, not a gentle autobiography, something that uses her personal diaries and private records as leverage. Sources described it as her last card, the idea being that the royals would prefer to keep certain things private, and a memoir threatening to detail palace life from the inside could generate either a financial settlement or a deal that gives her some measure of protection. The palace, reportedly, has been warned, and by all accounts the monarchy is holding firm. There's no deal being offered. The suggestion from people familiar with the thinking inside the institution is that Ferguson has significantly less leverage than she believes. The Epstein emails have damaged her credibility in a way that makes a sympathetic memoir a very hard sell to the public, and publishers know their audiences. What's more, any memoir that ventured too far into operational palace territory could have legal consequences. And with Andrew under investigation, anything Ferguson puts on record could become relevant to proceedings she has no control over. The plan, as it was described, may already be falling apart before it formally exists. What stands out across all of this, and you have to step back to see it, is how remarkably consistent the pattern is. Financial desperation, a willingness to attach her name to whoever seemed to offer relief, a scandal, a retreat, silence, then a slow attempt at rebuilding, then another scandal, larger than the last. Repeat. The 1992 photographs on a yacht with her financial advisor, the 2010 News of the World sting, where she was filmed offering access to Andrew for £500,000, the Epstein emails, and now this. Different years, different names, different continents, but the same dynamic every single time. A woman who, by her own written words, has spent decades in financial situations that led her to decisions she must have known, at the time she made them, were wrong. The 6 companies shutting down isn't the end of something, it's just the latest chapter of something that has been running for 30 years. The real question, and it's one worth sitting with, is whether Sarah Ferguson will ever genuinely reckon with the totality of this, or whether the memoir plan, the wellness clinic, the silence, and the eventual slow reappearance will follow the same arc they always have. And if they do, will the palace, will charities, will the public be there to receive her again? Because they have been before, repeatedly, and every single time the story has ended up back here. What do you think? Is there any version of a public comeback that makes sense for Ferguson at this point, or has the Epstein connection finally closed that door permanently? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to understand the full story of how Andrew ended up at Sandringham, evicted from Royal Lodge in the middle of the night after fighting the king for years, that video is right here. The details of what happened inside that estate are stranger than most people realise.